Once upon a time, in the province of Burgundy, France, there lived an artist named Timothé Imiter. Art had been his passion since he was a young boy, and his vast collection of filled sketchbooks showed. His subjects were always personal. He would focus on the memories that mattered the most, such as when his parents took him to see a mime artist performing on the streets of Paris, or when his late grandmother taught him sign language for the first time to help him communicate with his sister. That was when an idea popped into his head, an idea for something more than a drawing. One he had not yet considered until his pencil began to dance on the paper, unconsciously guided by the grip of his fingers. Line after line, hour after hour, he worked tirelessly on the drawings of a young girl dressed in black and white with a long, inky ponytail. It took him a while to think of a name. Inquiète, la fille de rêve, la dessin dessinée. But after he took a step back and gave the drawings a long, focused look, the name suddenly came to him like a flash of lightning. Mimi Mimica. Since that day, Mimi has become a constant in Timothy's life. No sketchbook would be complete without her, and no art talk with his friends would exclude her. You would think that a young teen like Timothy would eventually let go of her, but even when he went to art school, this love stayed with him.
Ce sont quelques dessins d'elle. Je pense qu'ils ont été dessinés il y a 4 ans.
4 ans? Vraiment? Et t'avais quel âge?
14.
Oh, eh bien, t'étais meilleur que moi à cet âge, c'est certain. Je veux créer une série de BD pour ces petites fées, quelque chose de fantastique, quelque chose pour la famille, tu sais.
Ah, je comprends. Je n'aimerais rien de mieux que de faire en sorte que Mimi soit vue par d'autres moi-même. J'espère la faire dessiner dans toutes ces petites histoires mignonnes que tous les gens peuvent lire et apprécier. Mais aussi, je veux qu'elle ait sa propre émission de télé. Oh, Timothée. Ce n'aurait jamais été aussi facile. Je fais beaucoup pour toi, Mimi. J'espère que ça en vaut la peine à la fin.
As Timothy grew older, it became apparent that his dreams would likely stay as dreams. He got a job as a cartoonist, although they were strict and never allowed him to put in his creative passions. And although he passed his ideas to publishers and companies, very few took them, none of which involved Mimi.
Je ne sais pas si c'est moi qui parle ou la manque de sommeil, mais j'aimerais que tu sois, eh bien, réel.
With exhaustion crawling into his brain, Timothy left his unfinished drawings on his desk and staggered to his bed, an intoxicated, depressed, nearly broken man. He slept a dreamless sleep into the early afternoon. When the sun was bright enough to wake him, he noticed something strange as he reached over his nightstand to drink water.
Hein? Qu'est-ce que c'est? Ah, c'est quoi ce bordel?
Standing before Timothy was a little girl, wagging her finger at him and pouting, as if to lecture him. Such foul language, Monsieur Imiter! Timothy just stared at her blankly.
Je vois. Je suis buré. Et alors, qu'est-ce que tu veux, espèce d'hallucination?
The girl couldn't speak, for she had no voice or tongue. So, to get him to understand, she moves her arms around, forming words with her hands. She pointed to Timothy, then to herself. In a few short motions, and with a gleaming smile, she made it as straightforward as possible that Timothy was her father.
Je ne sais pas combien de temps te reste dans le coin, mais j'espère que tu pars bientôt.
Frustrated by his ignorance, the girl grabbed Timothy's sketchbook, furiously skimming through the pages.
Hey, qu'est-ce que tu fais?
It was that moment, seeing the blank spot in his sketchbook where Mimi should be, did he realize what had happened, who this girl really was.
Tu es vivant.
The girl smiled and signed. Oui, papa, c'est moi, Mimi. And as soon as she finished her sentence, Timothy pulled her into an excited, loving embrace.
Tu es vivant! Tu es vivant!
Laughing, he twirled the silently giggling girl around before setting her down, the ink from her ponytail flecking his shirt like hundreds of little polka dots.
Oh, c'est magnifique! Ouh. Oh, c'est magnifique, Mimi! Toi et moi, nous sommes comme... quel mouvement as-tu fait déjà?
The little girl pointed to Timothy, then to herself.
Oui, ça. Comme père et fille.
After finding new meaning and inspiration, Timothy spent the next 2 months drafting his stories for Mimi. The scenario was almost the same as it was before. Publishers and companies dismissed his pitches or tried to make changes that he did not completely agree with. But lo and behold, he received a reply from Joy Jump Studios. They were always seeking new materials to work with, and Timothy's pitch was no exception. The next day, Mimi and Timothy waited in the lobby for their interview. Mimi bounced in her chair with anticipation. Within a short time, a couple of studio heads entered the room.
Hello, Mr. Imiter. Sorry to keep you waiting.
No, it's quite fine. You wanted to see me?
Yes, we're ready to sign things and get everything underway. Although my co-worker decided he needed more convincing of this program. Miming with Mimi, is it?
Yes, miming with Mimi. Mimi here is mute, but for the longest time, she's been using a new way to speak. With her hands.
With her hands?
On top of making a show where you don't need to rely on noise for a proper story, I want to create a show where children who can't properly speak or hear can look up to her.
I'm still hesitant to say yes, Mr. Imiter. She looks inexperienced.
I've faith in it.
You're entrusting an entire slot of television to some cartoonist and a little girl?
Bryce, think of how high the ratings will be about a mute character. The internet would love it.
You think a kid is going to understand that?
She doesn't have to. All we do is have Imiter make some storyboards and scripts, and we'll take care of the rest.
I hope you know what you're doing here, Landon.
I, for one, want to see more of it, Mr. Imiter. Price?
As do I.
Oh, that's wonderful. Thank you.
Now, we just need time to go over the pitch and storyboard you sent us, and we'll get everything underway. All you have to do now is go through those papers and sign them. After that, we'll see about getting a pilot ready.
Nous y voilà, Mimi.
Great! You just make sure Mimi is trained and rehearsed for the show. We'll be starting on June 14th.
As Timothy and Mimi leave, Timothy looks at Mimi and crouches down, ruffling her hair.
Nous avons une grande journée demain, Mimi. Allez, on y va.
Mimi pouts, pointing over to a nearby parking lot.
Où on peut s'entraîner maintenant?
All throughout the next few days, weeks, and then months, Mimi practiced her routines, one by one. At first, Mimi found it challenging to get the rhythm of her moves the way Timothy wanted her to. Sometimes, she even needed specific directions repeated, as she would either not understand them clearly or would zone in and out. What was just as troublesome, however, was that the slightest gusts of wind would nearly blow her away, or that any nearby dog would attempt to chase or bite her. Although Mimi thought little of it, the fact that such minor things in life would significantly affect her had worried Timothy. She didn't mind performing indoors for the rest of the training, but greatly missed the colors outside. But eventually, after enough effort and time, Mimi and Timothy were confident that she knew her routines. All memorized, all ready to go.
Hello? Wait! Right now? I am so sorry,
Where the bloody hell were you two? We start in an hour.
You said we'd be starting on June 14th.
Did you get the memo? Elephants, holiday special, Mime with Mimi pushed to today. It was sent out to you a week ago by the stage manager.
What are you talking about? There weren't any calls or notices about that at all.
Mr. Imiter, just go get Mimi ready. You have half an hour.
No, but... Yes, sir. Come on, Mimi.
Mimi sat on the floor, covering her ears. Her ponytail vibrates with agitation from the sound of the men arguing.
There's no time for stage fright. Get it together. Now!
Mimi, what's wrong?
Mimi rushes over to an empty chair by the mirror and practically curls up in a ball upon it. She's crying. Literally crying. She's crying little inky tears. Timothy walks over to her.
Hey, Mimi. Hey. Je ne pensais pas qu'aujourd'hui serait comme ça aussi. Mais nous devons juste traverser ça. Et ensuite, nous pourrons rentrer à la maison. N'est-ce pas? N'est-ce pas, ma fille? Maintenant, tu te souviens de ce que tu dois faire. Tu te souviens de tes repères? Très bien. Alors, nous allons te préparer pour le spectacle.
After calming herself down, Timothy and Mimi head up the stage behind the curtains, where a stage techie is quietly speaking from a headset.
I'm making sure that... Hold on. Yeah, they're here now. We're on in 5. Everything alright?
Uh-huh.
Good. Just focus on the performance. Nothing else. Don't forget the bag.
Although the tears had begun to dry from Mimi's face, every part of her was still tense and nervous about what was to come. All she could focus on was the sound of the audience. But strangely enough, it gave her more confidence when she remembered who her audience was. Kids, just like her.
That's your cue. Go.
Running past her anxieties and fears, Mimi rushed to the stage to be met with praise from the children. Although she couldn't see the sign directing the kids to cheer for her so loudly, the encouragement skyrocketed her bravery. Mimi began her act by pulling apples, oranges, and other food from the bag, miming how one would eat them. The apple had a crunch, the orange had a squish, the banana had a peel, and the bread had a munch. Behind the shade of the curtains, Timothy began to cry softly as a well-earned smile took hold of his face. His dreams, and his dreams for Mimi, had finally come true. As Mimi finished the last food, a water drop plopped before her. And another. And another. Oh, so many water drops at this point for her to bob and weave through. All invisible water drops, of course, but the sound effects made it seem like a great storm was coming. Mimi dodged every drop and swerved every splash. She danced and twirled to the cover of an awning. She thanked the heavens that there was a cover if they weren't trying to ruin her clothes right now. 10 minutes had passed in Mimi's act, and the show would soon begin to wrap up, but not without a grand finale. Although the water had stemmed from the storm, the gales had not had their turn yet. But not to worry, Mimi rehearsed for this. Slipping on a puddle and spinning around, the groceries fly in the air as she goes to catch every last one. But as she went to grab the previous apple, there was a sudden loss of footing. Without warning, Mimi fell to the ground, the bag's contents flying everywhere, some even landing on her head. Mimi tried to get up, but slipped again, falling on her side. Only after 2 more attempts of trying to stand did she finally do. And from where she fell, she saw the puddle of ink oozing from her ponytail. Timothy's joy immediately curdled into dread as the performance came undone. It was a cruel twist of fate to give him his dreams only to break them.
Non. Non, Mimi. Ma pauvre fille.
Immediately after the final fruit falls, the children cackled and laughed at her, their entertained cheers becoming a mockery. The inky waterworks returned for Mimi, even fiercer than in the green room. As she ran off stage, she nearly slipped again on her ink, her ponytail leaving a trail behind her.
Mimi! Mimi, attends! Mimi!
Hey, show's over. They're waiting for you in the green room.
Within a short amount of time, Timothé carried Mimi with an ice pack on her head all the way into the green room, where they would find both studio heads staring into his soul.
Mr. Imiter, today's performance was a disaster. I hope we're clear as water when we say your show will not be aired.
I understand, sir.
Now, please leave.
Back at the apartment, Mimi and Timothé sat in his bedroom in gloomy silence, with 2 empty vintages at the foot of his bed. He looked out the window momentarily, almost contemplating something, before looking at Mimi. Swallowing the truth, he gently took Mimi's hand and squeezed it, a solemn look in his eyes as he mustered the courage to say what may have been necessary.
Je ne sais pas si ce monde est fait pour toi. Je tiens à toi, Mimi. Mais tu es un papier vivant et délicat. Tu dois rester à l'intérieur à partir de maintenant.
Mimi hugged her father, but he did not immediately reciprocate it. Instead, he tightened his grip on Mimi's hand, wanting to emphasize his point.
Tu comprends? Mimi, tu comprends, non?
Reluctantly, Mimi nodded. Timothé finally brought her into a hug, although it wasn't as warm as before. The ink from Mimi's tears soaked Timothy's shirt for a moment longer, before she pulled back, looking up at him.
Va te nettoyer.
With a reluctant smile on her face, Mimi nodded, heading over to the bathroom. Walking to the sink, Mimi washed off her tears and the remnants of groceries on her face. She took a sullen look in the mirror, asking herself why. Why did all those kids laugh at her when she fell? Wouldn't they be upset if they got her too? After all, she was just like them. Wasn't she? Suddenly, there was a flash that brightened the bathroom. It took Mimi a moment to notice it before she saw a gleaming trail that illuminated the night sky. She rushed to the window and opened her mouth to speak, only for silence to come out. Oh, right. Thinking quickly, she took her ponytail and wrote a phrase on the glass. Je veux des amis. I want friends. But by the time she finished the sentence, it was too late. The star was already gone. Mimi sighed, stepping backward, and bumping into someone behind her.
Hello, Mimi.
Mimi furrowed her eyebrows as she got a look at the stranger. It was a peculiarly dressed person, with wings on their back. There was an odd yet charming presence about them. It may have had to do with the sparkles illuminated from their clothes.
Oh, you don't remember? I brought you to life, Mimi. I fulfilled your father's wish and gave him the joy he needed. But not everything went to plan, though, did they?
Mimi shook her head glumly.
I see. I hadn't planned for this, but I might have a solution. Beyond this portal is a land beyond lands that accepts the unreal. A world where energy and magic crackle from the smallest of fingertips, where your eyes will never just see one single form of being. Beyond this portal is Annualia.
The prospect of entering another world full of magic and wonder excited Mimi. But then, she returned to the door and remembered who she would leave behind. Holding a hand, she left the bathroom and tiptoed over to her father, who who was passed out in his bed thanks to wine and the depression. Quietly taking a piece of paper, she flipped her ponytail over and wetted the tip of it, writing him a letter. I have to leave, Papa. I'm going somewhere safe that will accept me for who I am. I love you. Mimi slid the note under her father's pillow, kissed him on the forehead, and returned to the bathroom. She glanced behind her one final time before bidding goodbye to this world and her father. Stepping through the portal, Mimi came upon an outside world. It was nothing like York. No cars, no concrete, not even crowds of people. There were so many trees, each one dressed in warm, colorful leaves, and it all enchanted her. And hey, what do you know? A pile of leaves ready to be jumped in. And Mimi did just that.
I bring very few people here, but that's usually their reaction. Welcome to the bedeviled forest. Anyhow, forgive my manners. I am Noble Nyx of the Perennial Council. And you are Mimi.
Springing up from the pile of leaves, Mimi shook Nyx's hand with such eagerness that it practically rattled them.
Aha! I'm glad we're acquainted already. Now, you wished for friends, yes? I know some people who can get you on your feet here. They're just down the road, shall we? Hey! Mimi! Wait up!
Meanwhile, on the other side of the forest...
Duff, you're going to crack your skull like an egg.
Oh, you're just being a spoil sport, Sor.
What I'm being is concerned for your health.
Health?
Point taken.
Oh, I got it! Spoil sport.
But where would you be if I wasn't one?
Probably in pieces. What is it, Sor?
I don't know. But it sounds fast, if not awfully close. What?
Hello.
Noble Nyx! Forgive me, I had no idea you would be here.
No apologies are necessary, Sorin. This is Mimi. She's quite excitable, as you can tell.
Yeah. No kidding.
I like her style already. Haven't seen a bag of bones like me before, eh?
Mimi, this is Sorin and Duff. They're good friends of mine.
A pleasure, Miss Mimi.
Nice to meet you, little lady. I'm Duff.
She just introduced you.
Oh, right. Well, I'm introducing myself twice now.
I'll have to take my leave, but I want to give you something first, Mimi.
Reaching into their pouch, Nyx pulled out a small, flower-shaped pendant, laced with silver and painted with sparkling lavender. They gently placed it in Mimi's palm, crouching to meet her eye.
I know a part of you is homesick, so if you wish to return to your world, hold the flower close to your heart and think only of family. In but a moment's time, you will be with your father. And if you wish to return here, do the same ritual, but think of your friends, which I'm sure you'll get to know very soon.
With all due respect, this is a little too sudden, Nyx. We just met this girl.
Well, at the least, I'd like you two to get her somewhere safe, okay? Perhaps she'll find a friend in a neat little hamlet. Or maybe she'll make some along the way?
With those last words spoken, Nyx turns to the night sky and flies off, leaving a trail of fairy dust behind.
I think she likes you, Sor.
I see that.
Hey, I know what'll help us bond. A friendly game of kickball.
Duff.
It'll just be for a few minutes. Then we're gonna move on. You ever played kickball before, kid?
Huh?
Well, this is a unique spin on it. Don't worry, I don't bite.
You'll get used to his shenanigans, Mimi. He's very macabre.
Just go on and give me a kick. Great kick, kid!
Oh, goodness. That was just priceless. You know, maybe you're not so bad, Mimi.
Tales of Annualia, Book 1, Chapter 1. From Page to Stage, The Story of Mimi Mimica. Starring Alain de Regal as Timothé Imiter, Matthew Vanston as the roommates, D. Tyler Fultz and Angelo Toledo as the studio heads, Jett Barker as the studio tech, Candace Marie as Noble Nix, Jazzy Oliver as Sorin Battington, Joseph Esposito as Duff B. Mandible. Vocal reactions for Mimi Mimica and narrations by Jordan Scarsfava. Created, directed, and edited by Jordan Scarsfava and Stephen Rutherford. Written by Ian Stanford. Captions by Jazzy Oliver. Cover art by Dolly Doodle and Jordan Scarsfava. Royalty-free music by Esther Arambi, Asher Falero, Sir Cubsworth, Ryan McCaffrey, National Sweetheart, Jeremy Blake, Nate Blaze, Audionautics, Yemena Contreras, Akash Gandhi, Track Tribe, The Soundlings, and Quincas Morera. Special thanks to our patrons, Dante Majors, Bernie the Cat, and Aaron Scarsfava. Tales of Annualia, copyright Jordan Scarsfava and Stephen Rutherford, 2024. Thank you for listening. See you all next time!